the Republic of South Africa here. What I think we should do, Sandra, is we will do the introductions on our side and then give you the opportunity to do the introductions on your side, Chairman or Sandra, and then also give you the platform immediately after doing the introductions. You will then lead us into the request of the meeting, because you wanted to meet with us. After that, we'll do a response, then some engagements. Because it's a bit late, I hope we can keep it a bit shorter, because we had to make sure that we accommodate you, because we hold you in high regard. I mean, there was no way you will come to South Africa and not meet with us as parliamentarians from South Africa. Unfortunately, there were difficulties of Africa Day clashing with your request today. And we had to allow members of the Portfolio Committee to go to the Africa Day activities. And I must say, I must thank them for being flexible and coming to meet with you tonight after the activities of the Africa Day. Very early in the morning tomorrow, we have to be on a flight to Cape Town, because tomorrow is the budget of our international relations and cooperation department. So we have to wake up very early to be at the airport. So when we say let's keep it shorter, please, I hope you understand. As I said, my name is Supra Mahumapil. I'm the chairperson. We will start from the extreme right with the lady in red to introduce herself. Oh, there's okay. Sorry, Honorable Musa.
Thank you. Hello? Thank you so much, Chairperson. My name is Imran Musa, and I'm a member of the International Relations Committee. And I'm also a leader of Al-Jamaa in Parliament, the party called Al-Jamaa. And I'll hand over to my colleague now. Thank you so much.
Good evening, colleagues and the delegation. My name is Ngobile Mhlongo, representing the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF. I'm a member of the committee and the head of international relations on behalf of the EFF. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Muleboheng Mudisempia. I'm the member of the Portfolio Committee in International Relations and Cooperation, and I represent the African National Congress Party in Parliament.
Good evening. Okay. Good evening to Your Excellencies and honorable members and my fellow honorable members. My name is, and our chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, my name is Andisiwe Kumbaqa. I'm a member of the African National Congress, and I'm the whip for International Relations and Cooperation in the Portfolio Committee of International Relations. I'm also a member of the Planning and Monitoring Portfolio Committee, and also a member of the Joint Committee on Members' Interests and Ethics. Thank you.
She is also the member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress Youth League, the youth league that produced and built and nurtured Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu.
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to the delegation from the AU. The name is Honorable Mogodu Moela. I'm the member of this committee and also the member of the Portfolio Committee of Police and Correctional Services. You are welcome on a special day wherein we are celebrating Africa Month. Looking forward for deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Honorable Wesley Douglas. I represent the official opposition, Nkonto Sizwe, on the International Relations Committee. I'm also the Deputy Chief Whip in the National Assembly for the party. I serve on the Standing Committee of Appropriations and the Chief Whips Forum as well. Thank you.
We've got apologies from the Democratic Alliance member, Honorable Smith. He apologized, so he couldn't make it to the meeting. Oh, you met him? Oh, okay. That's why maybe he's not here. Yeah, because he met you, he saw no value to come to this meeting. And then which other apology we have? Honorable Chetty. He's also from the Democratic Alliance. Then we've got Reverend Meshwe. Reverend Meshwe is from the African Christian Democratic Party. We also have the apology from the United Democratic Movement. I nearly said front. United Democratic Movement, Honorable Nkwankwa. Who else apologized? Those are the apologies. Oh, Honorable Dr. Lynchfield Chabalala, also from the Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, is also has apologized. So we are a multi-party committee on international relations. We have never voted in our committee. We believe in engaging until we find consensus. The relationship is not acrimonious. 99.99% of the time we agree without any difficulties in the committee, because on international relations issues, we are almost, all of us, on the same wavelength. I will now give over to you, Chairperson, to introduce your team, and as soon as you are done, then you can do your presentation. Thank you very much, and once more, you are welcome.
Honourable Chairperson, honourable members, thank you first of all so much for receiving us on this Monday evening on a very special day. Let me wish you all Happy Africa Day, and we very much appreciate the efforts you have made, not only to meet us tonight at this late hour, but also the efforts of waking up early in the morning and then flying to Cape Town for your important meetings. I would now like to, first of all, ask our members to introduce themselves. We are 6 members of the European Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, the Parliament of the European Union. And we will, like you just did, start on this side of the table, and the first member would then be Mr. Wilimski.
Thanks a lot, Chair. Thanks for your hospitality. It's an honor to be your guest. I really appreciate it that you find the opportunity to host us on that wonderful day for you. And just to introduce myself, I'm from Austria, a small country in the heart of Europe, and the group I belong to is the so-called Patriots for Europe group. And as I said, I enjoy the evening and enjoy your hospitality. Thanks a lot.
Good evening. My name is Stanislav Stoyanov. I come from Bulgaria, member elected from Bulgaria. It's a great honor to be here today with you. I represent the Europe of Sovereign Nations group, a new group in the European Parliament, which we created in the summer of 2024 at the beginning of this parliamentary term.
Good evening, Michael Gala from Germany, European People's Party, that is the Christian Democrats. I consider myself a frequent visitor, and I'm happy to be here again. And I'm in the Parliament the spokesperson or the coordinator of the European People's Party in the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I'm also a member of the South Africa delegation, and also in the Africa delegation with the Samoa Accord, where you stepped out some years ago, but we were just 2 weeks ago, we were in Eswatini for a meeting, so I also passed through here and have this opportunity now again. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, of course it's more than a pleasure to be with you this evening. Like my colleague and friend Michael, I'm for the first time in your country, but I already feel very strong about Africa. And of course, let me echo my congratulations for the Africa Day. I've been elected in the last country which entered the European Union 13 years ago. It's Croatia. And of course, I'm representing in the European Parliament Social Democratic Party of my country, and I'm a member of Socialist and Democrat. And my specialty within the foreign affairs is the Western Balkan countries, of course. Thank you once again for your hospitality and your time.
Good evening. My name is Bernard Guetta. I'm French. By profession, I'm a journalist, and I was elected at the European Parliament only 7 years ago, so as a politician, I'm completely new. And but I'm really very, very happy to be, and honored, of course, to be tonight with you, because I have a deep conviction. And this conviction is that the future of Europe is Africa, and that the future of Africa is Europe. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, and all members of the Portfolio Committee. Also on behalf of myself, happy Africa Day. I'm Sandra Kramer. I'm the ambassador of the European Union to South Africa. I'm not an elected member of Parliament. I never was, but I somehow get to introduce myself, and that gives me the opportunity, Chair, to thank you and to thank everyone for your flexibility, for your time, and for your patience with us. It's really, truly very much appreciated. And I pass back to the real Chair, Mr. McAllister.
Okay, thank you. My name is David McAllister. I am from Germany. I'm a member of the European People's Party, and I have the honor of chairing not only this delegation to South Africa, but also the Foreign Affairs Committee of the European Parliament. And since, Honourable Chair, you asked me to say a few introductory words, the European Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee travels 5 or 6 times per year on short missions, and we haven't been to South Africa for quite some time. And with our visit, we want to underline how much we appreciate the good relations, the strong relations between the European Union and South Africa, between South Africa and the European Union. Our committee deals with all the external relations of the European Union, and tonight's meeting ends a long day of meetings and visits, which started this morning in Cape Town. We had the honor of meeting the Deputy Speaker, Dr. Lotreat. She was accompanied by one of the members of your committee, Mr. Smith. Then we had lunch with stakeholders, members of the National Assembly, and we visited Enrich in Africa, an EU-funded incubator for new businesses, brands, and productive communities in Cape Town. And I was also able to inaugurate, together with Minister Tau, the BioVac production, where the European Union has, with 95 million euros, funded a production site for vaccines for Africa, being produced in Africa. So this once again underlines that we as European Union are very much dedicated to a sustainable, positive economic development of your great country. So that's where we are. Tomorrow we're looking forward to having a number of visits in Pretoria. I already have thanked you for the efforts you have made to receive us tonight. That is indeed truly, truly appreciated. We would like to use this opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to hear more how you in your portfolio committee are dealing with international relations. Perhaps you can tell us a bit more how you operate, how you work in Parliament. How often does the Minister for International Relations come to your committee? Do you debate foreign policy? Do you adopt resolutions? So interested in the technique of parliamentary work, but of course we want to especially hear your positions on content. We're particularly interested in hearing the South African position on South Africa-US relations, on relations with the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, how the South African Parliament, how you see the future development of the African continent, something we can of course discuss on Africa Day, and also what role South Africa is playing here in this southern part of this continent. So please be as open, as free as possible. We are a diverse bunch of politicians on our side with very different political views, but when we travel, we are united in diversity. And I guess it's the same on your side. By the way, I forgot to mention at the beginning, I am a staunch supporter and admirer of your amazing, fantastic rugby team, the Springboks. You're just absolutely world class. And of course, at Cape Town Airport, I just bought the latest Springbok jumper for myself. So back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable McAllister. Am I pronouncing it? Or McAllister? Thank you very much. Thanks for the correction. Thanks very much, Honorable Chairperson. We work with Sandra very well. She knows that she doesn't struggle to get hold of us. Myself, she can call me directly. We have removed all the barriers of communication. And that has made our lives very, very much easy. Because it's too late and members have to go and rest, I'll keep it brief. But I think from the outset, we must say thank you very much for always recognizing that it's Africa Day today. And the context is that at some point Africans had to come together when the Organization of African Unity was formed to try and everything else done up to where we are today with now the African Union and Agenda 2063 of the African Union. The genesis of everything came from the African Union. As you know, we had to overcome colonialism. It's a history that we can't erase. Ourselves and yourselves have to make sure that we don't seek to erase the history, but we make the best out of our history of the past, so that future generations, both in the African continent and in the European Union, can inherit a much more better relationship between Africa and the European Union. They must be able to appreciate that there were men and women who did not hide their head in the sand. They confronted the problems that they were facing. They worked very hard to find convergence. Where there were difficulties, they never gave up. They kept on engaging until they found one another. And we appreciate these huge investments that come from the European Union, particularly to our country here, South Africa. Trade hovers around 47 billion euros flowing to South Africa. That's very commendable. And just before I go into the committee again, just one last thing. And Sandra knows I like saying this. And once more, Mr. Gala, I'm happy to see you. When we were in Europe, there in Brussels, US colleagues welcomed us very well, and everything was super. It was excellent. And the engagements were good. The texts on the declaration, we were able to find one another. On fossil fuels, we had to engage a little bit more harder and so on, but we were able to find each other. The African Union had adopted a theme on reparations. And that theme in the portfolio committee here, we adopt it as a theme which must not just be a theme for 1 calendar year. And we want to put that proposal here because it's our resolution as a committee. That, yes, Africa Day is important, but we must have Africa Month. And that in the Africa Month, between us and the European Union, we must commit that in our parliaments, we will, on an annual basis, make sure that we commit to using Africa Month to look at our past, the progress we have made, the challenges that still remain, and how we work together to deal with current and future challenges. It's our hope that we will be able here in South Africa during the Africa Month to have a series of debates in Parliament and outreach programs. We hope Parliament in the European Union can do the reciprocation. Then we can, in between, share the notes on what progress we are making towards achieving our mutually beneficial resolutions that we would have taken in the European Parliament and here in South Africa and in the Pan-African Parliament. Because we have said to our speaker, we will be very happy if this which is coming from our committee here can find expression in the Pan-African Parliament. Now, coming to our committee. As I said, our committee, we are 11, we are multi-party. The situation slightly changed after the 2024 elections because of the democratic outcome. The most important thing that our friends from the EU must appreciate about South Africa's democracy is that our elections are always peaceful. Our elections are very transparent. We allow European observers to come here and observe our mission, our elections, and other countries that are interested in coming to observe. We allow you to go anywhere in the country. There are no barriers and no go areas. We allow you to go anywhere. And that the parties here in South Africa, we all sign. You see, like this year, there's local government elections. We are going to be signing adherence to the code of conduct in as far as the elections are concerned, and they are run by an independent body, which is the Independent Electoral Commission, which is a Chapter 9 institution in the Constitution of the Republic. We are doing this because in the preamble of our Constitution, there's a clause there that says we have a joint responsibility as South Africans to deal with injustices of our past. So we join hands to overcome these injustices of our past, despite our political, ideological differences and our background differences in as far as the genesis of the formation of parties are concerned here in South Africa. The number of parties is increasing in South Africa because our democracy allows it to be like that. Now, the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa says that we've got 3 arms of the state. We've got the judiciary, which is totally independent, the executive, and parliament, which is the legislature. Parliament holds the executive arm of the state accountable. The executive arm of the state is the one that does the allocation of budget because revenue in South Africa is collected by the executive arm of the state working through the National Treasury and the Department of Finance. So the disbursements from the executive go to the judiciary and parliament and the executive itself. But the disbursement from the executive through the National Treasury doesn't dilute the power that Parliament has over the executive in as far as oversight is concerned. Tomorrow we are having the debate in Parliament. As the chair, I'll be reiterating on behalf of this committee to the Minister of International Relations that the Minister should on a monthly basis appear before the committee. Because of busy schedules, we are saying the minimum should be through virtual meetings. But on a quarterly basis, in person, the minister is to appear with the deputy ministers before the Committee of International Relations. We are also responsible for the 115 missions that South Africa has all over the world. We came to Europe to do oversight on all the missions that are based in Europe. We have done SADC. We are going to the Americas next month because we have adopted a regional model to oversight as a new mechanism for the 7th Parliament. It was not there before. So this Parliament, as the Portfolio Committee, we have introduced that. The other thing this committee has introduced is a people-centered approach to doing our work. We have done 5 provinces out of 9, where we are establishing at the community, ward-based level, structures of international relations at the community level that are working with this portfolio committee, which means ordinary members of society in the rural areas, in the farms, in the townships, in the informal settlements, all over. They can now participate and influence our oversight instrument on the executive, unlike before, where international relations was just parochial, left to analysts, think tanks, universities, members of parliament, and so on, particularly the middle class. So we have now taken it to the grassroots. So the grassroots going forward will now be participating in our international relations processes. The president signs international treaties. Our constitution says the president, after signing the international treaties, they must be tabled in parliament. They don't come into effect until parliament has endorsed or approved them in terms of the law. So there is that communication between us and the department, because the Department of International Relations and Cooperation works under the presidency. The presidency in South Africa has delegated the functions on international relations to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. We have got 3 spheres of government in South Africa: the national sphere, the provincial sphere, and the local sphere. The Constitution says the 3 spheres are interdependent, but independent at the same time. So independent and interdependent, but we are a unitary state. So it means the provincial, the district, the local, metros, and so on, they can't do anything, pass policy or laws that contradict national policy or national laws, national norms. They can't do it. Of course, there are some challenges in South Africa now. There are voices of dissent from the Western Cape, where you were. Yeah, I'm sure you in the discussions there, if you don't sense it, then you did not engage enough, where the provincial government of the Western Cape feels that more powers must be devolved to provinces. There's too much centralism. But that's the model we have adopted. And we say to them, we agree with you, but for us to change what is in the Constitution, we need 2/3 majority, and none among us have got 2/3. If you want to convince everybody, you will then have to make sure that we master the art of getting to 2/3. You've got the UK not being part of the EU. There are some people here in South Africa, in the Western Cape, who are working on some kind of UK outside EU type of a model where they want to be independent from the rest of South Africa. You can try it, it's allowed in the constitution, but you have to master the art of getting the support of the majority. And currently in South Africa, it's almost impossible for that to happen because of our dynamics as South Africa. We're just too integrated as a society, black, Indians, colored, and so on. But we've got those voices which we must tell you and not hide it, because there are researchers who write about it, analysts who talk about it, and so on. But we must indicate that though the Constitution doesn't oppose it, it will not happen in our lifetime in South Africa here. This committee, there's overlapping issues with other committees. For instance, Home Affairs, visas, for instance. We don't deal with matters of visa applications, IDs, and so on. They follow in Home Affairs. So we have a working relationship with Home Affairs, with Defense, with police. The other department which is critical is Trade, DTIC. We have to work with them, because in international relations, we work on economic diplomacy. And economic diplomacy overlaps with the work that is done in the Department of Trade, Industry, and Competition. So we work with them. We do work with your missions that are based here. That's why we work with people like Sandra, the African ambassadors who are domiciled here in South Africa. We have now started the process. Last year we met with all of them. It's going to be an annual meeting every October. Us as a committee engaging with them on issues of mutuality in the context of diplomacy between us and them. Our relationship with the United States of America, from the perspective of South Africa, we don't have any problem with the US. From where we stand, we don't have an issue with the US. The US, under the presidency of President Trump, has got a problem with South Africa, right? So we don't have an issue, they've got an issue. And we have tried to explain, and I'm happy you have been here. Sandra is here now in South Africa. You know this thing of white genocide, that people who look like you, who are white, there's a genocide on them here in South Africa, right? The US president believes in that. It doesn't exist, right? There's horror movies. We can't illegalize them, right? So people who believe in horror, they can follow horror. We know we don't have such a thing here in South Africa. Actually, there are black South Africans who are saying it was too much of a compromise at the negotiations to allow extreme white Afrikaners to have their own enclave here in South Africa. It's called Orania. You can Google it. It's exclusive for extreme right-wing thinking type of white people who are Afrikaners in South Africa. So you can't find a black person there in Orania. But we are not, there's no military against them. Nobody's attacking them. Nobody's throwing stones at them. They've got their little artificial currency called Ora. The official currency of South Africa is the rand, right? They've got their little currency there called Ora. And those are the people that are communicating some of the negative messages to the United States of America, particularly President Trump. There's a group of Afrikaners called AfriForum. in South Africa here. They also communicate the messages of negativity about South Africa. There's an organization of Afrikaners called Solidarity, Solidariteit in Afrikaans. They do the same with President Trump. There are over 650 US companies based in South Africa. They do work here. No matches against them. They are not banned. They've been doing trade in the Republic of South Africa. There's no problem with them. We are part of AGOA for the African continent, and we say to President Trump, South Africa doesn't have a problem with the US. We're not anti-US. But we have a problem with how the President of the United States of America believes in the false assertions that are made about South Africa. As a consequence, there's tariffs after tariffs imposed on South Africa by the Trump administration. But we are engaging with them. There's a formal body that is talking to them. We are not going to give up. We'll continue to engage the United States of America. And we have also told the US that we don't only trade with them. We are also trading with other partners like yourselves. I mean, trade between us and you, relations between us and you are at their best. Between you and the African continent are at their best. You just have to look at the G20, which was held here in Johannesburg, and how the EU raised the bar, because the EU raised the bar, and everybody else had to make sure that they match the EU in as far as that is concerned. We debate the speeches of the minister to adopt the budget as a portfolio committee. I'm now back to the parliamentary issues. We debate those issues, and then we adopt the budget. Sometimes we don't agree as parties here on the budget, then it will be put on a vote in the House, and the majority will emerge because we are a democratic country. I know you may have not raised it, but I think I must address it. Two issues that we have not raised, which may be at the back of your minds. The first one is Iran. Our relationship with Iran and the fact that Iran is part of BRICS Plus. We have diplomatic relations with Iran. But the fact that South Africa has diplomatic relations with Iran, it doesn't mean that we kowtow Iran. It doesn't mean that Iran can dictate to South Africa on what to do, on what not to do, on who to relate with, and who not to relate with. Our position is very clear, that the situation now, which is between the state of Iran, the US, and Israel, that only negotiations under the auspices of the United Nations, the UN has to reign supreme in that environment, and that peaceful methods must be adopted to arrive at the solution in Iran. So whatever the US is doing with other countries and so on, we welcome it. We applaud it. If it works for humanity, we support it. And we hope that both the US and everybody else will keep the United Nations in the loop in as far as those matters are concerned. We do meet with the ambassador of Iran, and we do express our concerns, particularly on issues of the saving lives, the losses of life. But it's important to also note that Iran was attacked by the US and Israel from nowhere. When negotiations were sort of going very well, in as far as these matters of nuclear are concerned, from there where there was an attack on Iran, and Iran had to defend itself. Unfortunately, there's been losses of lives on both sides, and we condemn that. We don't agree that this might is right philosophy must be the one that determines geopolitics. We don't believe in that. The world is now suffering economically because of the Strait of Hormuz. Supply chains all over the world are affected. We, the poor, is worse because the cost of living here is very high in South Africa. Poverty, inequality, unemployment, which was man-made. I was saying to one journalist today that, you know, journalists, you surprise me because you don't emphasize the fact that Africa's problem, the reason why there are these tensions, they were man-made because men met at Berlin in 1844, 1845, the beginning, and decided to just divide Africa without consulting anyone. Africa did not have a view, and so on. And over time, African people got assimilated into these little fiefdoms called countries in the African continent. And today we fight over these little borders. These little borders, you are coming from Mozambique, you are from Malawi, you are from South Africa, you are from Nigeria, and so on. The men who caused this disaster are no more. They have left us with these problems. The AU is trying to resolve it. We hope that it can resolve at some point. My last point is on Moscow and Kyiv, that you know our position. We have said it when we were with you in Brussels. It doesn't change. That peaceful methods must be used. The children that are in Moscow must be returned to, as President Ramaphosa has said when he was there, must be returned to Kyiv, and there must be ongoing discussions between the two. We are not taking any sides between the two. As South Africa, we have a relationship with both. You see, like today, some of us, myself, I had a meeting with the ambassador of Ukraine, and it was not for the first time. So we always have those discussions because we have a very cordial relationship. So I thought I must just give you that summary and leave many other things out of the equation. That's the briefing, Honorable McAllister. Thank you very much. Any addition, Honorable members? You okay? Any addition on the right? Okay. Okay. All right. Over to you, Chair.
Well, Honourable Chair, thank you very much for this briefing, how your committee operates, how you deal with international relations and the National Assembly, and also touching upon a number of important topics. If you allow to make it a bit more interactive, I would like to give the floor to some of our members. If I may ask our members to perhaps just give some short input, also ask questions, because we usually use these kind of opportunities to understand better the position of our host country. So we're very interested in not hearing what the majority has to say, but also where perhaps the opposition has slightly different views. So if that's okay for you, Mr. Chairman, then one of our colleagues would have to kick off, and then perhaps we can play a bit of a ping pong. That's okay with you. So who wants to kick off? Tonino?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for very comprehensive insight of not only how your Parliament and Portfolio Committee is functioning, but thank you for overview of a number of the foreign affairs issues you are dealing with. I got two questions. First question is related to functioning of Portfolio Committee, and I'm curious to know better. You mentioned that South Africa got around 150 different diplomatic missions or in the world. Maybe I didn't hear well, but in capacity of every Foreign Affairs Committee is to be part of the process of appointment of new ambassadors. And I would like to know better, is it the case with Portfolio Committee? Do you have hearings of newly appointed ambassadors of the South Africa in the world, and what procedure, legal procedure is about, who is nominating ambassadors, and what's your role within that process? And second, it's a foreign affair issue, typical, of course, you didn't mention relations between your country and China, which are always important to know, because as we speak, China is the first foreign trade partner for 130 countries in the world. And of course, China has also a presence here in your country. And can you describe it better? How you're shaping your relations with Beijing? Thank you in advance.
More questions? Okay, then we move on to Michael Gahler.
Yes, thank you for your outline and overview that you gave. I think we should always start with the points that we have in common, and I think as we are not a superpower and you are not a superpower, all the states who are not US, Russia or China have an interest in a rules-based international order. That is our framework that keeps us in stable, potentially in stable relationships, and I think we should on all occasions insist on that in the United Nations and wherever we are. I think you will find out yourself, and you can estimate how your partners are towards you. And I really said it already last time, when we compare how the US behaves, not only towards you, but also towards us currently, unfortunately, but it's only 2 years, 7 months and 25 days to go. And the G20 will be even over earlier. So you're back in this regard. I think then you can estimate that we are reliable. When we agree on something, it's implemented, and not because somebody has a fancy idea and stops it all. So I think that is for you to assess. I would wish, well, I take note, and I'm happy that you met the Ukrainian ambassador today. I mean, I'm the standing rapporteur on Ukraine. There is one issue that affects Africa directly, and I think that is actually outrageous when I see the Russians hire foreigners for their war. In Cuba, they tell the Cubans, help us fighting against the Ukrainian fascists. In Africa, they hire people and pretend they have nice jobs for them. And then they find themselves on the front line. I think that was what the Kenyan president went to Moscow to get his people back. We have had cases in South Africa in this regard, even some prominent involvement, allegedly. And I would wish that, so to say, in this regard, you are clear that you say, hey, don't hire Africans under false pretexts. I think that even has a racist aspect. To the Cubans they say, what is the purpose? And to the Africans they say, look, you get a nice job in Russia, and then they find themselves there. I think that is intolerable, and well, that's the point that I wanted to make. Thank you.
Who else would like to take the floor? Yes, maybe. Bernard?
Mr. Chairman, I told you about my conviction that Africa and Europe. I would like, if you allow me to elaborate a little bit on that. As a European, as a Frenchman also, of course, when I look at the world, I don't see the US as a friend anymore of the European Union and of the European. I'm sad about it. I think it's not really reasonable, and this is an understatement, but this is a fact. The President of the United States wants to destroy our unity. When I look at Russia, I see the biggest country of the world, not by the economy, but you understand me. willing to rebuild not the Soviet Union, but the Tsarist Empire, which was much bigger than the Soviet Union. And so this country is not my friend, our friend, because they want to destabilize the entire Europe. When I look at China, I see a disloyal and very frightening economical threat. And this country is not really my friend, neither. When I look at Africa, I don't see problems. I see possibilities. I see many things we could do together and that we should do together. Europe, Africa, many countries in Asia, one country in North America, I mean Canada, of course, and many countries in Latin America. And so let's start together to build up this new century. Thank you.
So, finally, Stanislav, Harald? Okay, both.
Thank you. You have spoken about the war involving Iran in the disruption of the supply chains. As a BRICS member, how is South Africa affected by the conflict, and how serious is the risk to energy supplies, and what is your strategy to address this problem?
Was one question very briefly, but I think that's important for my understanding, to understand your mindset. We were told today that Elon Musk decided not to go to South Africa and to implement the Starlink project because you have a regulation, it's something like black empowerment that says at least 30% has to be owned by the black community. So the question is it really that necessary to insist on this regulation, or could it be more flexible to invite investors to South Africa, bringing money to your country, because that also could lead to the fact that you could help to fight poverty and to help black people in your country. So to bring it to the point, is it really that crucial to insist on this regulation, or might it be useful to think about more flexibility on that?
Okay, thank you, colleagues, for your questions. And I could add a lot, but considering the time, I'll give it back to you first of all, and then perhaps you can also hear statements from your
Thanks,
colleagues.
Chair McAllister. We'll start on the extreme right. Honorable Ngobile or Musa Sand is up. You want to speak? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. And I think I have just about 3 questions that I would like to pose. Firstly, I think our date for meeting, it's quite telling for me. It's Africa Day, and you know, I'm going to be quite frank with the delegation that Europe was at the center of the scramble for Africa. Our problems of Africa emanate from the Berlin Conference that saw Africa being petitioned to the 55 states that we currently have. So in light of that and what we have raised, Chair, on the AU's 2063 agenda of justice and reparations for Africans and the African descendant, what is your view on the fact that we as a committee have called in this committee and that we think Africa deserves reparations from our colonizers for their hand and the role they had played, one, in extracting our mineral resources and leaving our people more poorer, while our mineral and mineral resources have created jobs and built your economies. Would you be willing to support that you pay reparations for your role that you have played? I'll give you an example how black South African women were humiliated in Europe through taking Sarah Bartman to the freak show in Europe, displaying her body parts in a freak show in Europe. How you have played a role in humiliating African women, on how our bodies have been built by God. Would you be willing to pay reparations and support that part of you paying reparations as Europe on your role you have played? Number two, the EFF is calling that the UN Security Council should go under radical transformation by, one, giving veto powers to African states. Would you support that call in the UN Security Council, that more African states get to have veto powers as well in the UN Security Council? Because as currently stands, Africa is not well represented in the UN Security Council, and it is considered that Africa is perhaps not an equal partner in geopolitics. Now, I think lastly is the issue of, you want diplomatic relations and economic relations with Africa. But those relations should be based on mutual values and respect for one another. Now, when we trade amongst each other, it should be that our mineral resources must never leave Africa as raw materials to create jobs for your people, leaving our people unemployed. Every time we see trucks on the road going to either Durban, Cape of Good Hope, going to the ports, leaving, when we see our coal leaving Africa, when we see our gold, our platinum, our uranium, our mineral resources leaving as raw resources, and you don't bring your equipment into Africa in order to beneficiate the communities, in order to create jobs, so that when you take these resources, you take it as a finished product, not as a raw material that is going to create job for your people and leaving us and our people jobless. Would you be willing to have a relationship like that with Africa? Would you support a proposal like that, that says that you want a relationship where you bring your machinery, you bring your equipment into Africa in order for our resources to live as finished products? When you take our resources, it must be a finished product, not a raw material that will create job for Europeans and leave South Africans without jobs. I think the last item, Chair, is the issue of immigration. We've got a problem of people always, when they speak about illegal immigration, unfortunately, they don't refer to people of your skin. They always think that illegal immigrants are black naturally, forgetting that a lot of Europeans came here, they are not of African descent. They came here from 1652, arriving here in Africa at the Cape of Good Hope, passing by to look for perhaps spices in Mozambique and somewhere else. And this was used as a station where they can refuel and get food. But today, we don't see Europe participating in rebuilding Africa, not just South Africa, Africa, the entire continent, and ensuring that you pay for the crimes of colonialism that was done by your forefathers to our country. So I want to hear your views on those matters, where you stand. Would you be able to support something like that? If not, why? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Musa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to our Chairperson from the EU as well. Basically, from my side, I have perused through the briefing documents, and as a representative, I would like to add that I think we need principal interventions that reflect South Africa's interest of justice and equitable international relations. While South Africa welcomes the significant investment commitments made by the EU, we must ensure that these investments result in meaningful industrialization, local benefication, skills transfer, and sustainable employment opportunities for our people. Africa cannot remain merely a supplier of raw materials while value addition takes place elsewhere, and I think my colleague has mentioned that earlier as well. We encourage the EU to support greater market access for South African products and to remove unnecessary barriers that disadvantage developing economies. South Africa remains concerned that development cooperation is increasingly taking the form of loans rather than grants. So instead of grants, instead of loans, we want grants. Developing countries are already burdened by significant debt obligations. Genuine partnership should promote development without creating additional financial strain on vulnerable economies. And I think that's where we stand. So some of the other input is with regards to Palestine and the international law. South Africa continues to advocate for the consistent application of international law, the protection of civilian lives, humanitarian access, accountability, and respect for the rulings of international institutions must apply equally to all conflicts without exception. We welcome the growing recognition within Europe of the urgent need for a just and lasting resolution to the Palestinian question based on international law, human dignity, and the right of all peoples to live in peace and security. The future of Africa-Europe relations must be based on mutual respect, equality, partnership rather than dependency. Decisions affecting Africa should be made with Africa and not merely for Africa. We encourage greater support for the African Continental Free Trade Area as a vehicle for economic growth, regional integration, and shared prosperity across the continent. South Africa supports dialogue, diplomacy, and peaceful conflict resolution in all regions of the world. Military solutions alone cannot resolve complex political disputes. Sustainable peace can only be achieved through inclusive negotiations and respect for international law and respect for the UN. As South Africa and the EU continue to strengthen their strategic partnership, let us ensure that our cooperation delivers tangible benefits to ordinary citizens, advance peace, justice globally, promotes equitable economic growth, and leaves no community behind. Our partnership must be measured not only by trade figures and investment flows, but by the positive impact it has on the lives of our people. Given the European Union's commitment to a just transition and sustainable development, what practical measures is the EU considering to ensure that mechanisms such as the carbon border adjustment mechanism do not unintentionally disadvantage African economies that are still developing and pursuing industrialization? This question is diplomatic, constructive, and directly advances South Africa's economic interests while remaining consistent with the briefing document. I thank you so much.
Thanks, Honorable Musa. Anything, Honorable Modise?
Thank you very much, Chair. I think on my side, briefly, I will make a comment on the triple BEE. It is very much necessary. It is actually a government policy and a legislative framework in South Africa, which is designed to redress the economic inequalities that were created by the then apartheid government. And we would all know that a majority of South Africans, it's blacks who are majority citizens in South Africa, and they are the most poorest in the country. Therefore, the Black Empowerment Triple BE, it is aimed at ensuring that it empowers the majority of citizens that are in South Africa. And lastly, Chair, one of the core elements of the Triple BE, it's the socio-economic development, what we call the SED. It aims at also ensuring that there's investments in the country, but it is aimed at ensuring that there's economic access for all communities. Also to fund access to healthcare, education, and a various number of social initiatives that are in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Honorable Modise. Honorable Kubaka.
No, thank you very much, Chair. And once again, welcome to South Africa. Mine is not going to be long, Chair. I think, especially coming from a view of a young person, we have a huge challenge, and we are trying to tackle as much as we can our triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And when it comes to unemployment, it's a huge problem, especially for young people. You know, the majority of people in Africa and also South Africa is 60%. You know, we have more young people than we have old people. So the matter of unemployment is a huge problem. So I think going forward with ourselves, the South African Parliament and International Relations Committee, we'd like to see more collaboration when it comes to skills transfers, etc., and opportunities that young people can access, you know, from the various governments in the EU, so that we can be able to tackle this unemployment crisis that we are currently faced with. So I think it's very important to just find areas of collaboration, especially when it comes to skills that young people can gain from that side and use this side to ensure that we tackle these challenges in various innovative ways. But other than that, Chair, I'm covered. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mwela, anything?
Thank you very much, Chair. And greetings once again to the delegation and Chair Mika Lasta, the Chair of the Committee of Foreign Affairs. I think most of the deliberations have been made by my colleagues here. I just have one question that I will need clarity on. With an understanding and some of the utterances that have been made by my colleagues with regard to illegal immigration that we are having in the country. I think you are all aware of the problems that we are having, which the AU yourself had the very same similar problems of illegal immigration, approximately around 919,000 in 2024, which you were found illegally present in the AU. And there have been 27% decrease from 2023 and 40% decrease, which is significantly now in 2025. I want to understand, how did you manage to deal with this issue of foreign illegal immigration in Europe, as I can see the successes in terms of trends, so that we are able to draw from what we have done and deal with the problems that we are confronted with in the country that is at the peak of dividing the country if it is not well managed. Maybe if you can tell us on how you managed to do that. And lastly, there is a submission that have been made by South Africa through the DTIC with the response, or to say there is a need to expand CBAM so that you are able to be flexible on some of the areas, because there's a very serious, strict regulations with regard to CBAM that is affecting most of our emerging companies, most particularly in the area of citrus and other areas where there is serious regulations. That particular submissions that have been made through the TIC, which I believe you are aware of, how much are you willing to be flexible so that we are able to increase our trade in terms of our relations? Those are some of my submissions. Most of the areas have been thoroughly covered by my colleagues, and the chair here just explored everything and covered the view of the committee in all the aspects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll try and be quick, but the chairman will say I always speak a lot. I represent the official opposition, so that question that you spoke about, where do we stand as the official opposition or one of the opposition parties? I think, plainly speaking, we achieved political emancipation in 1994, but not economic emancipation in 1994. We didn't change apartheid era and colonial economic extractive model in South Africa at all for the last 30 years. And that's the reality. And that's why our people still live in abject poverty in shacks 30 years later, when we have the world's highest amount of, for instance, PMGs, 85% of the world's PMGs are here. We have rare earth minerals here. We just discovered oil and gas. We have enough resources to take our people out of poverty 1,000 times over. But we haven't had the political will to do that. And that is because we need to change before we can have foreign direct investment, like we've been trying to get foreign direct investment, and we've had good relationships with the EU. Let me say that we need to change the land ownership first. There needs to be land justice. There needs to be reparations, because that was not done in 1994. We are official opposition. We started 6 months before the elections in 2024, not very long ago. In 6 months, we became the official opposition in South Africa, right? One of the largest parties right now. Why? Because we stood on this issue. The fact that we need to have the hard conversation in South Africa about land justice, about expropriation of land. The land was stolen, it needs to be returned. We need to have a sovereign wealth fund, we need to have a sovereign land trust, and we need to make sure that we protect businesses, but businesses are not monopolized like they are right now. Right now, the companies that are in the JSE are 95% white-owned and by beneficiaries of apartheid and colonialism. It's not black-owned in our economy right now. How do we change it? How do we transform that? We talk about BEE, but BEE in its current form is not really transforming the lives of the poorest of the poor. We need to do more, not less, of black economic empowerment, but not in a way that damages business or damages our relationships with the world out there. Under our party is headed up by President Jacob Zuma. He is a former member of the ANC and leader of the ANC and leader of this country for 9 years. In that time, we didn't see the world fall apart. We saw good relations between South Africa and the EU. We saw good relations between ourselves and America. Things are changing now. Why? Because we are being more serious about the issues that affect our people in terms of poverty. We need to beneficiate our minerals at source. That was said by all our MPs. We no longer need an extractive model. We need now to change it so that our people can get jobs, we can own the value chains, and can be part of the global sovereign move that is happening in Africa. We're putting Africa first. We do not describe to the ideologies that many of you are subscribing to. We don't have to choose between East and West. That's not something that we have to do. We have to choose what's in our best interest as South Africa. We need to choose what's in my people's best interest. I represent the Khoi and the San people, the oldest First Nation people, Aboriginal people in South Africa, by DNA. And yet our people are not recognized, our people don't have land, our people are living in abject poverty. And that is a throwback to colonialism that's not been dealt with in South Africa. So when it comes to our relationships with the rest of the world as the official opposition, we are a non-aligned, actively non-aligned organization. We are obviously very similar in many of our positions than the ANC has been, but we are more radical about economic diplomacy. We've been forcing and talking about economic diplomacy because economic diplomacy is the only way to take our people out of poverty. The reality about how DIRCO and international relations is happening right now, it's activities-based. It's how many banquets we've been to, how many bilaterals were signed, how many different things we went to. It's not about how many jobs was created, what's the impact, what's the outcomes, how many businesses was taken, how many black businesses went over to the European Union, how many township entrepreneurs have gone to the European Union and done business there. Those are the kinds of metrics that we need to start seeing in terms of the relationship here. Not about how many of the JSE top 100 wealthiest monopolies that benefited on apartheid, how they're doing, because they've always been doing well. But they are only 5% or 7% of the population. We need the other 90-odd% of people to benefit from the relationship between the European Union and South Africa, and that's not been happening for 30 years. So even if you have €1 trillion in our market, has it meant that our people have come out of the shacks? No. So something must change. And so from an opposition point of view, we're not anti anybody, we're pro-South Africa. We're pro our own sovereign ability to take our minerals, beneficiate it, take our people out of poverty, build new cities, and we will partner with anybody that can give us the technical expertise to do that. We will partner with anybody that will give us the strength and the ability to be able to take our people out of poverty rapidly. So for us, it's not an East versus West message. For us, it's about what is your honest ability to help us take our people out of poverty? Are you helping us build ports? Are you helping us build railroads? Are you helping us build airports? Are you helping us do the things that will industrialize our economy? Or are you making us dependent upon you like your forefathers and ancestors did? We don't want a dependence anymore. We don't want an extractive relationship anymore. We want to see value add. And we want to see that happen not only for the rich, elite, JSE-listed companies, we want to see it for the majority of South Africans. And that means there must be a change in the relationship. We live in an increasingly multipolar world. We know the unipolar world is over. So what does that mean for all of us and in our relationship with the EU? That has to be determined in terms of how we start doing business now. And business must be not just high-end business where there's billionaires. It needs to also be for the township economy. It also needs to be for the young black and the young woman and the young disabled person. These are the people that are suffering and that cannot get any help from the mechanisms that exist in government between our two governments now. So something must change in order to open that up so that more people can benefit. So I think I'll just leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Douglas. Elon Musk is a South African. Elon Musk. If you can ask him, why are you not going to your country to discuss with your fellow South Africans? What's the problem? Because they can't chase you away. It's your home. He will not be able to answer. There was exploitation of black labor to the extreme here in South Africa. And the Musk family in South Africa is a beneficiary of that exploitation. But we don't want to punish him for that. We simply want him to recognize that South Africa is a country with a background where black people were oppressed through colonialism and apartheid. As a patriot who is so successful globally, can I make a contribution to develop my country? And simply comply with the laws and not mislead people. Because Elon Musk and President Trump are misleading the world by saying South Africa is using BE to take the shares by force from investors. There's no such a thing. I mean, there are European businesses here. That's not happening to them. There are over 600 companies here in South Africa. They are complying with the BE laws. The shares are not taken for free. Part of the applications, practical, is that is through equity, but also through dividends. You have to pay back, because the most important thing is that there must be authority in decision making in business, but there must be ownership, there must be control. But we don't take over your company. It still remain your company, and every country has got its own law. So if you want to do business in any country, comply with the laws of that country. You don't rubbish the laws of that country. When you are there, yes, you can lobby for amendments and so on, because there are platforms to do so. So Elon Musk, will just have to comply with the laws of South Africa. You can't have Americans complying better than him here in South Africa when he is a South African. You know, it's very strange. I thought he will approach it differently. Like I said, South Africa will not be controlled by any country, including Iran. The fact that we've got good relations with them doesn't mean that they can prevail over South Africa. We are a sovereign state. We have got our own way of approaching issues. Iran's enemies are not necessarily our enemies. We relate well with countries that don't relate well with Iran and vice versa. So they've got no impact on decisions that we take around policy that is in the context of international relations. We have a good relationship with China. China is the second, no, number one trading partner. The second is the US with South Africa. It's a very good relationship, cordial, and so on. There are Chinese who give us problems here in South Africa, many. But we know it's not Chinese policy. It's individual enterprises and individuals who come here to South Africa. Some come through tourism visas and they end up not going back and so on, and they break the law. They cut the horns of the rhinos and so on. And the laws deal with them because we know it's not the policy of the People's Republic of China. So we have a very good relationship with China. Our relationship with them is more or less the same as the relationship with you and South Africa. It's cordial and it's mutually beneficial. So I thought I needed to just add on those two things. Yes, the EU, so far, the boxes are ticked very well in as far as commitments, trade-wise, between South Africa. There's room to improve, but you can't fault the EU so far. I think we're doing very well between us and yourselves. Of course, there's this matter which I don't know why it's not getting resolved around trade, the issues of our fruits. I don't know what the black spot on an apple does to the human body. We've asked these countries that fall under you, some of them we have got problems to say, give us empirical evidence that says if a pear has got a black spot, it will make you sick. Now we don't have, we don't have such, but we understand. We understand that it's about also the volumes, particularly our competitor is Spain, when it comes to some of the commodities that we sell to Europe. So that discussion will continue. Amarula is one of the things that is outstanding between us and yourselves. It's very popular here in South Africa, Amarula. It's a nice drink. We don't understand why some of the Europeans wants to block our Amarula here in South Africa. We hope that it can be resolved. But in the bigger scheme of things, trade between EU and South Africa is excellent. It's good. We think it must be grown to unparalleled levels. We just hope that in the WTO, we can work together, ourselves and yourselves, on these negotiations around trade and so on. We hope that post the Trump era in the US, the world will become a little bit more stable. Hopefully, we don't know. We are cautiously optimistic that the world will become a little bit more stable, better tolerance globally. which can help everybody. Because it's too late now, we didn't want to go too far in some of the debates that are taking place, but I think they are mutually beneficial. Honorable McAllister, on these important discussions that are taking place here. I think there's a EU delegation coming here in June. Is it in June? South Africa, yes. There's around the end of June and so on. We were supposed to go to Europe, I think in November, October. It's clashing with our local government elections, but we can work on that. So it will be resolved, and we will meet and visit again Brussels. Ambassadors are decided by the president. The president is the one who decides which ambassador is deployed here. They look at skills, capacity, the particular character of a certain country, and those powers are with the president. We don't play a role as a committee at all. We don't decide. We do oversight on those ambassadors that are deployed from the office of the president. There will be, because of political differences in South Africa, other parties that will continue to talk about cadres, cadre that, cadre this, cadre that, and so on. It's neither here nor there. This cadres brought us to where we are here today, 32 years of democracy, stable, transparent. And we never say we thank the cadre, right? But it's the cadre who brought us to where we are. Also, this fallacy that if you are a cadre, you are inherently incompetent. That comes from the Democratic Alliance, that incompetency is inherently embedded in cadres of the ANC. And we've always said, no, there's nothing like that. Every human being have to be judged on the content of their character and their ability to execute their responsibilities. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm now giving over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, let me thank colleagues for their valuable contributions. Thank you for being frank. Thank you for being open. I think it is important when we travel abroad that we try to get a broad variety of views and also questions. What is important for you is not necessarily automatically on the top of our list, and that's why these engagements I always consider as very, very helpful. Before we respond, I have a procedural question. It's 5 minutes past 10. When do you plan us to have a little bit to eat? Because I thought because you're hosting us for dinner, and we are now developing towards a midnight supper.
As soon as you are done with your responses now.
Ah, okay.
We are breaking for dinner and closing. Closing at the same time.
Okay, colleagues, that means we have to be very brief. We have in the European Parliament 1-minute speeches. That really makes you focus. Now, you raised so many issues. I would do the following. I'll just pick a few topics briefly. I would invite colleagues to comment on whatever was addressed, and all the rest of the difficult questions we leave with our ambassador. She's looking forward to that. I just want to comment on 2 questions, 2 points that were raised. The first one is on the reform of the United Nations. I think here we have some common ground between South Africa and us in Europe. One thing is clear, the United Nations have been a success story. We're very happy that we have this multinational institution and that we all should work hard that we maintain these multinational structures based on international law. But of course the United Nations has to reform, that's obvious. And the Security Council, with its 5 permanent members, does not reflect the world of 2026. That is also obvious. It reflects the world of 1945. Of course, it is not acceptable that in the year 2026, Africa is not represented with a permanent membership in the Security Council. Neither is Latin America, nor is, by the way, by population, the largest country in the world, India. So of course we need to reform, we need to adapt, but of course in the end we need the 5 permanent members of the Security Council on board, because without their consent things don't move forward. And I have the impression that the appetite is not so big, at least when you look at 3 of the 5 members. I think France and Britain would play a more constructive role. So here I think we have a lot of common ground. We have just, as European Parliament, adopted a report on the United Nations. Perhaps you want to have a look at it. European Parliament, United Nations report, where we are very specific with our proposals. The second point I wanted to make is reparations. I think that we as a European Union, and we are representing the European Union, we are not do not have the competence to discuss this, because indeed we have member states with a sad colonial past in Africa, which you rightly addressed. And I am very aware, we are all very aware that many, many, many of the problems your great continent is facing stem simply from the fact that Europeans came to this part of the world, they were not invited, they exploited this continent, and then they left it by drawing very strange borders and left African people with all these problems. So I think, especially in the next generation, that there is much more an awareness of this as perhaps there was in the past. But the question how to deal with the colonial past is an issue for our member states, France, for Spain, Germany, Portugal, Italy, Belgium, and also the United Kingdom, which has left the European Union. But here, sitting around the table, are also representatives of member states who don't have a colonial past in Africa. Croatia, Bulgaria, Austria. So that's why this is an internal issue we need to discuss in Europe. It differs from member state to member state. For instance, in Germany, we have started a debate on how to deal with the sad, dark colonial past, for instance, as regards Namibia. So these are the 2 points I wanted to make. Now, colleagues, 1 minute 30 answers. Who would like to raise an issue? There were enough questions raised.
Just on the way we trade with each other, I think there was the argument to say it should not only be extractive, right? But the fact, especially for South Africa, is that many of your goods that leave towards Europe or elsewhere are already manufactured or pre-manufactured. So it's not that only the raw materials leave the country. But I agree, in many other African countries, why is it that in West Africa, where they have cocoa and have coffee, there's not a single chocolate factory and not a single coffee roasting? Yeah? I mean, if there's a good cooperation between Belgium and a country there to have perhaps also help them establish a chocolate factory, and so on mutual beneficial thing, and the same for coffee. Perhaps David is close to Bremen, where it's all roasted. Perhaps they wouldn't be happy if that suddenly in Africa they start roasting the coffee and not in Bremen. But my point is, point taken, but you are on a good track in this regard. I think that is good to see. So I leave it with this answer.
Yeah, of course, I just want to praise, of course, what you have said about many problems, of course, we shared in a way, but one thing we share as well, of course, today is Africa Day, but don't forget that the May is also Europe Day. We celebrated 9th of May as a Europe Day. It's a real celebration for us. We got many reasons to celebrate, because European Union is the single most important, not only political, but political project in entire European continent history. It far by saying in that. And another reason why I'm proud that I'm European, that's the European Union as such developed through the time a number of the mechanisms to help the world, including the Africa. We are greatest donors of international aid in the world. And beside that, it's not fun, but true fact that 50% of all social transfers in the world are happening in the European Union. So our model is good, and it helps us to be in peace with each other. And this model is something we can strongly recommend it to you, to Africans, because at least Africa is a cradle of the mankind. And I believe that future belongs as well to you. But you need to follow some of our good traits with strong reflection what Europeans did wrong in the past.
Bernard, yes. Would you order okay, first Bernard. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, many points. First, thank you, because this is a real discussion, and we love it. David was extremely right, perfectly right about the United Nations, about the reparations. If we think about this question in terms of money, it will be a failure. We have to think about it in terms of co-development, of equal partners, of supporting Africa and supporting Europe. Because after all, we need you for Ukraine. And maybe you need us for Sudan or some other very terrible situation in Africa, as the situation in Ukraine is absolutely terrible. And one more point about Israel and Palestine. Michael Geller and myself and two other members of the parliament, we created a year ago an intergroup for the two-state solution. And the two-state solution is the policy or the wish of the European Union for years and years, and more and more. And so you, South Africa, and you, Africa, and we, Europe, we don't have to support, to be pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian. We have to be pro-peace. And peace means two states living in peace together. Thank you. Oh, excuse me, just one more point. You were absolutely right. You don't have to choose between East and West. But why? Because East, it doesn't exist anymore, and West, neither.
So now we go down this side of the table, Stanley and...
My comment will be very short. It was a very interesting discussion. But I would like to say that when we are guided by common sense, there is always a lot of room for mutually beneficial agreements in economy and also geopolitically. We live in very turbulent times. And, I believe that there is indeed a lot of room for cooperation to find a solution for the challenges we all face currently, globally, I mean. That's it.
Thanks a lot. So if I take the floor now, there is really the danger to open Pandora's box, yeah, for a lively debate that could last hours. So I will not do that, yeah, but just address you directly, Honorable Douglas, because that's what you said, yeah. Africa first, I fully supported, yeah, I fully respected, and that is also the principle of my party in Austria, and we say it's Austria first, and everyone has to take care for its own people, and our task as politicians is to find common ground and to look for cooperation, yeah, that give mutual benefit and prosperity to each of us, and so it was, from my point of view, the most important thing said on this table, that this Africa First policy is something I respect, and I ask the other ones for respect for my country saying that. And by the way, I really like I don't know how to name it, this headgear. Yes, and because it shows that you're a very proud representative of your people, and that's important for me to say. And maybe that could be the closing remarks, and the kickoff for the dinner. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And now all the difficult questions, the leftovers for our wonderful ambassador, Sandra.
Thank you very much, Chair, both, and thanks all of you. And now I'm standing in between all of us and dinner. So this is really complicated. But just a few points. Very briefly, Chair. Indeed, there's no matter of asking to choose partners, because South Africa will choose whatever is best for South Africa. So that's clear. On the more technical questions that you raised, first, we can debate really for a long time about citrus. But by the way, there is the European Parliament Committee, Portfolio Committee of Trade, meeting today with the Portfolio Committee, as you know. So the chair, Bernd Lange, has had all these discussions today. The citrus trade between South Africa and the European Union is doing very, very well. And ever since those measures came into place to tackle 2 diseases, not just the black spot, but also the false codling moth, ever since those regulations came into place, trade has actually spiked. Trade is doing very, very well. So, as you say, Honourable Muela, so we can increase trade. Trade is really good. Almost half of your harvest of whatever citrus product goes to the European Union in cooled containers and applying by the regulations. The WTO case is in Geneva. We want to talk about it. The scientific proof for both citrus black spot and false codling moth is there. South Africa still has to nominate somebody to sit at the panel. That hasn't happened for 2 years. We are ready to talk. But there is a clear case of false codling moth not existing in the European Union as a disease, and we don't want it in the European Union. And you can abide by the regulations, which you're doing, which your citrus producers are doing. I think the problem with citrus is not so much the trade, is not so much adhering to the regulations. It is the smaller citrus producers who face difficulties with paying for the cold treatment. And that is something that is very well known to DTIC, even to President Ramaphosa. He brings it up. So that is the issue, and we should zoom in on that. So that's for citrus. But let me reassure you again, it is a very, very fruitful trade that has even increased after our regulations came into place. On Amarula, that is outstanding because we have outstanding requests from South Africa. This is also very well known in DTIC and particularly the Department of Agriculture, because all these issues are what we call sanitary and phytosanitary related. There's European member states who want to export certain products to South Africa. They then ask for export licenses, and that sometimes takes up to 10 years for these people to get licenses to export, to do trade, which would actually be beneficial, because actually that would create jobs here. That takes a very long time. And I think that we have agreed in March when we met, the leaders met here in Cape Town, and they also met in Johannesburg, that we solve these cases and we solve Amarula, and it's one thing. But if Amarula is still outstanding, it means there's other cases outstanding. So that's on that thing. Then I just wanted to say that we have signed in 2016 the EU SADC Economic Partnership Agreement. That means 98% of goods coming out of South Africa go into the European Union duty-free and tariff-free, 98%. So you have seen the headlines about China, and that is all very nice, but you read the small print and it says within 10 years. We're doing this now since 2016. 98%, no tariff, no duty. You export. That has actually also increased a lot, our trade. In terms of CBAM, I just wanted to say that there's a very restricted amount of sectors. It infects your steel, iron ore, and fertilizer. That's it. And you're hardly exporting fertilizers. The world's going green, and I think this relates to the just energy transition, because those production processes need to become greener in order to get into the European Union. And this is not, the European Union is not the only entity that you trade with that has carbon border adjustment mechanisms, because that's what CBAM stands for, carbon border adjustment mechanisms. If you export your steel to the US or to Korea or even to China or whatever, you will come across a tax. Everyone taxes these products until and unless you green the production processes. So that is what CBAM is about. So I think there's two ways. First of all is indeed to continue on the path of just energy transition, continue on the path of having these production processes more and more green, by solar, by wind, by whatever is suitable for that. And secondly, for South Africa to apply their own carbon tax. If South Africa applies a carbon tax to these products, it would be good. You have the legislation, by the way, and National Treasury is very well aware of this. That money stays within South Africa, and you can deploy it the way you see fit. But that would be a very good way. For the moment, companies are not complaining. There's only 2 or 3 steel companies, you know, ArcelorMittal and Columbus Steel. They're greening. They know, because they know the whole world. Their products will otherwise find other barriers. It's not the European Union, it's everywhere. So they're greening. They don't bother that much for the moment. And CBAM, for the moment, by the way, we have an online event this week on Thursday in Johannesburg, but you can link up to it. I will share it with the chair so you can follow that discussion. It is when stage 2 comes into effect, which is when the energy is being calculated into the cost, and if that energy is not green, that tax will go up. That is not the case now. That won't be the case for the next couple of years. And that will obviously take into account the developments towards the just energy transition. So CBAM, for the moment, as far as business is concerned, is in a stage that is manageable. And that's where we stand. I think it might be good if I share information about what we're doing on Thursday afternoon so that you can link up. It's a WebEx or something, or Zoom, and then have a bit more background on that. Other than that, I think there's a lot of good things that have been said. I just want to say beneficiation is something that is definitely first and foremost on our radar screen. There's a whole lot of investments here, and whatever we do, it's about what Honorable Kumasa said as well, skills development. It's about, there's a lot of skill programs going on, and that, just to go back to the State of the Nation, which President Ramaphosa is always coming to the South African Parliament, and he mentioned only one minerals project, which is Frontier Rare Earth, that he mentioned in the State of the Nation. That is with European investment, with European technology and European capital, and that is pure beneficiation. There's really, that is the entire thinking about that. So we were very pleased and happy and honored that President Ramaphosa mentioned that particular project in the State of the Nation. Chair, I can go on forever, but I will not. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank colleagues for their contributions, and especially our ambassador for running through so many of the points you raised in a very precise manner. In the end, Mr. Chairman, to conclude, and dear colleagues, I would really like to encourage South Africa to continue to play a constructive role at the international level. You are the only African country in the G20. And you play a remarkable role in the G20, especially as a bridge between developed countries and still developing countries. It's important that your voice is heard. And to pick up one point which our colleague Michael Gala mentioned, the world is going through such a geopolitical transition. The old global order has collapsed. Something new is being created. We don't know what it will look like, but one thing is clear. We in Europe, as you in South Africa, we all sit in the same boat. We are dependent on a world where we have multilateral cooperation and the international law applies, because this is the only way to protect the small, the medium-sized and not so large countries against the imperialist fantasies of the big ones, the nuclear superpowers. So here we have something in common, and our premium partners in the world, you know, are countries like Canada, Australia, Japan, South Korea. These are the very, very like-minded. But if you look at countries like India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Mexico, Brazil, and of course South Africa, we have very similar views on how this new world order should look like, and that's why let's look for as much common views we have. Let's work on the differences. I thought it was very helpful to today hear views which we perhaps not hear every week and every month in Europe, but that's because we often are far too Eurocentric. And just in the end, lots of evil ideologies who have brought so much trouble to the world were all invented in Europe. Nationalism, fascism, imperialism, Stalinism, just to mention a few. And it's also our responsibility as Europeans to learn from the terrible mistakes that have been made, and that we together shape a better world. And one thing is clear, as equals at eye level, that's something which we very much advocate from the European Parliament, that we have a proper partnership with Africa, and that we get away from this donor-recipient relationship which we've gone through all these decades. We want opportunities for Africans, and hopefully you can consider us as a reliable partner, especially as regards our historic responsibility for this part of the world. And with that, I hand over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honorable McAllister. I want to thank your collective for the candid manner in which we engaged here tonight. I also want to thank my colleagues for the patience, the flexibility, and the robustness in engaging, because we represent the people. We will forever stay in touch through Sandra, very energetic. Sandra, we must continue doing that important good work, because we have mastered the art of bringing us and Europe together. Mr. Chairman, my office and your office will always stay in touch in between these meetings. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Lubabalo, announcements. Into